Alrighty, guys. So I am super excited to be able to share with you all of these amazing nuggets today. My name is Sarah Rogers. I am one of your founder council members, 3-star double platinum, and a 3-time IATAN card holder. So today, what we're going to be going over is intro to booking basics. Okay, like I said, guys, if you are somebody that's just kind of getting your feet wet in the ground, this is going to be for you. If you're somebody that's maybe you've gone through a couple of consults or gone through a couple inquiries and you haven't really quite figured out, or maybe you're feeling a little bit lost, this is going to be for you. Okay, if you're seasoned and maybe you're just feeling a little bit stuck, or maybe you're not getting the results that you need, this is going to be for you. Or if you're simply here and you just want a refresher of simple business processes, this is going to be for you. Okay, so I'm very excited to get into this today. We're going to hop straight into it. Okay, guys, make sure that you have your pen and paper out. Make sure that you have your notebook out. Make sure that you have screenshots, a camera ready to be able to take screenshots. What I'm going to do, we are going to be going through quite a bit of information. Okay, I know that. So if you would please help me help everyone kind of get through this in a concise manner. What I think I'm going to do is, instead of fielding questions as we're going through, what I think I'm going to do is kind of hold a Q&A at the end. Okay, so very important. I want to be able to answer your questions, but I do want to be able to get through the information. Okay, so hold all of your questions till the end, and I will go ahead and hold like an open form Q&A. That'll kind of allow us the time to kind of sit through. And for those of you that need just a little bit more information, we can kind of go through the information there. And for those of you that kind of just want to get through the information in a concise manner, that'll allow you the same thing as well. Okay, so who here is ready? Go ahead and throw it in the chat box. We are going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully you guys have lots of pen and paper out. We're going to go through quite a bit of information today, and I'm really excited. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it, guys. All right, so we are going to be going over some very basic things, but this is going to really help you streamline your business process. Okay, we're going to be going over what forms to have ready before you book. Okay, we're going to go over what to say during your first client inquiry. Okay, so we're going to walk you through the entire consult process. Okay, from the moment you get the inquiry, from the moment you get off the phone, and even how to prep for that follow-up phone call. Okay, this is what this meeting is going to be all about today. And we're even going to kind of have this discussion about how to pick a vendor, right? This is really important, understanding what vendor is going to be the correct vendor for you. So we are going to have a little bit of that discussion here today as well. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and kick it off. Okay, so let's talk about this, guys. Okay, a lot of people get really excited and they want to just throw their feet in the water or feet in the mud or whatever that expression is, and that's really great. But what happens is we get in the mud and then we're kind of like, what are we doing here, right? So the best thing that you can do, and this is applicable to any business that you have, okay, but specifically we are talking about obviously our travel business, right? We want to set up a business process, right? There's so many benefits when you guys can create a business process for yourself, right? And this is going to really help you in 4 really big areas. Number one, it's going to help you become a more efficient business person. Okay, it's going to help you become a more efficient travel agent. Okay, you're going to be able to streamline operations, which in the end is going to save you time, right? Some of you have heard me before. I like to say that I have a business that works around my life, not my life working around my business, right? So it's also going to give you consistency, right? People are going to start learning what they can expect when they speak to you, right? This is going to help you come off as a professional. Who here is looking to do this full time? Who here wants to become that super boss professional travel agent, right? Having a business process is going to help you come off in that aspect, right? You're going to deliver reliable customer experiences, right? It's going to help you deliver clear, concise communication to your client. It's going to help you take control of your business. Who here wants to stop feeling lost and wants to feel like they are more control of their business? Having a business process is a big must in order to achieve that, okay? And scalability, okay? You're going to be able to easily handle increased workload. Why? Because you know for all of your inquiries, you're going to treat them the same way. So whether you have one or whether you have 5 in the pipeline, you understand that everyone's going to go through the same process. This is going to really help you guys as you start exploding into the travel industry and as you start really building your book of business, okay? Because what happens when you have a predictable workflow process? You get to understand how long a client inquiry is going to take me. This is going to really help you in your appointment setting process, knowing what your workload can be, right? Can I handle taking 5 clients in one day? Is that going to be too much for me? You don't really know that until you can come up with a business process that allows you to kind of go through the motions and understand your timeline in the process, right? Quality control. This is really going to help you ensure that you have high service standards when it comes to your clients, right? Clients love feeling like they're taken care of, right? Think about it from the client's perspective, right? If you are a client, do you want to talk to somebody who seems like they got their stuff together? Are you going to have more confidence in somebody that seems to have a business process for how they handle things? Or are you going to have more confidence in somebody who seems a little bit of a hot mess? They're disorganized. They're taking a lot of time just pulling up the basic things that they need, right? Which person are you going to have more confidence in? That person that's ready to go, that person that has that business process under control. So it's very important that we understand that if we are here to be travel professionals, we need to have professional business process. And that's what this training is going to be all about, okay? Helping you get that main client inquiry business process streamlined so that you can have all of these 4 benefits of having your travel business in your back pocket, okay? It's going to help you have confidence. It's going to help take that edge off, right? How many of you guys get nervous when you talk to clients? That's totally normal, right? But having these business processes, it's really going to help you curb that anxiousness, right? Because you understand the motions that you're going to go through. I have a lot of anxiety, guys, okay? So you're not alone. I'm somebody who suffers from that too, okay? And what I find really helps me is when I have predictable steps that I know I'm going to take. The more predictability that I have in my business, the more confident and the less anxious I feel, right? So trust me when I say this is going to help you a lot, okay? One thing that you may not always have control of is the actual travel inquiry, right? One thing that we're going to have is all kinds of different travel requests. That's no doubt, right? But what we do have and what we do have full control of is how we set up receiving that information and processing that information to our client, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Put in the chat box if that makes sense to you. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, awesome. Perfect, guys. All right, so we're going to go on to the next thing, okay? Forms to have, okay? These are forms that you should really have up prior to your consult, okay? And we're going to talk about how you even go about setting a consult, the language you have with your client, but these are forms that you want to make sure that you know where to locate, okay? Whether you have a platinum or a business mentor that has some of these forms readily available for you when you're onboarding, or whether you know how to find them in your travel cafe. Remember, part of being in control of your business is taking accountability to know where these resources are at, right? The best thing that you can do and the more confidence building blocks that you're going to have is that accountability aspect of your business, okay? So if you don't know, that's okay, right? What did I say in the beginning of this? We are here to learn today, right? The best thing that you can do is take that accountability and put it in your back pocket. Going to the travel cafe, looking to see where the land inquiries are. If you're with somebody that has an organization that provides some basic land inquiry forms, knowing where those resources are located on your team website or your team Discord or chats or Facebook group or wherever that may be, so that you can save them and have them readily available each and every time you have a client ready to go, okay? Now, to me, it's really, really important. I don't like giving my clients paperwork to fill out. Okay. When I'm on the phone with them, my experience and my services start from even before we get on the phone call, right? But definitely when I'm on that phone call, that land inquiry piece is a tool that helps me, right? Part of my business processes, part of the questions that I'm asking on that is to make sure that I'm hitting everything that they may need right? In order for me to even produce a good quote for them, right? I need to have certain information, right? So these land inquiry forms are going to help me make sure that I'm getting that proper information, okay? And also, guys, it's gonna help you really make sure that you're really qualifying that client. We're gonna go over these in a second, but we're just gonna kind of go over the forms as of right now, okay? So if you don't have the forms, if you don't have any forms, I'm gonna do you a major favor right now. Who here would like a Google Doc land inquiry form? Who here would like a cruise inquiry land inquiry or cruise inquiry form that you can save right now so that you already have one ready to go? Guys, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys these nuggets right here. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some of these forms. Oops, here we go. Just one second. So that you guys have them readily available. Okay. Now I will say that these forms right here, guys, you have to copy and save them into your computer. Okay. They're not editable because they're on a platform for my team, which they have readily available access to them. Okay. So the purpose of this is to have a copy for you to save into your Google Drive. Okay. So I am going to share with you guys a land inquiry form and a cruise inquiry form. Okay. Now you don't have to end up using this, but if you don't have these and you have client inquiries coming in, this is going to be a major time saver. These are going to be questions that you want to ask your client. Okay. Now, let's get back into this, right? You're going to want to know and have a credit card authorization form readily available, okay? So for those of you that have been with us for a while, just so you know, Archer Travel recently came out with a newly designed credit card authorization form, okay? You got to go into your travel cafe, go into forms, and it's CC authorization form. I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek if you haven't seen it yet. This is what this credit card authorization form looks like, okay? Super clean, updated, looks really clean. I really love that Archer did this for us, okay? It's something that needed to be updated, okay? And we're going to go over how to have this pre-filled out prior to your follow-up phone call, okay? But this is a form that you do want to get familiar with prior to, right? So that you understand this, so that you can help educate your client along the way, which is going to be crucial in building those relationships with your clients, okay? Okay, and some other things that you want to be kind of have ready to go during a consult are things like maybe you want to have Google Flights up. Okay, maybe you want to have Viator up. Why? Because you don't want to get into necessarily quoting over the phone, but this can be really good to help you give your client some sort of baseline if they start asking you about general pricing or stuff like that. Again, it's not meant to give a straight quote, but it's meant to have you do like a quick researching tool. Does that make sense, guys? So for instance, if I have a client that is looking to go to Italy, right? And they're flying from Seattle, right? And they give me a really low budget, I can quickly kind of populate some things into Google Flights. I'm not giving them a full example of a full on itinerary, things like that, but I can give them a really quick generalization of, hey, you know what, Susie, I know you're telling me that you want to spend around $3,000 for a 14-day trip to Italy. Realistically, though, just to give you some quick tidbit, on average, you can probably expect a flight to cost you probably about $1,400 round trip. So that's just the flight, right? And now you have 14 days that you want to spend in a country. We may need to revisit the experience, shorten the days, or revisit the budget overall, right? These are things that you can kind of use as tools during your consult, but see how I didn't use it to give a straight quote, but I used it to help educate my client. So during that consult, we can go ahead and correct some of that and maybe rework some of that. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, and I'm going to kind of go a little bit deeper on how you can populate these and pull them up. Okay, so all right, so we're going to go ahead and kind of get into this. All right, like I said, guys, I know you guys may have questions. Please write them down on a pen and piece of paper. I am going to do a Q&A form at the very end. Okay. All right, setting up the consult. Who here gets a little bit nervous about the actual consult, right? You get an inquiry and you're like, oh my God, you're number one, you're probably super excited, right? Your marketing efforts paid off. You have a client coming in, or I would say a possible client, right? Coming in and wanting to possibly set up a booking with you. You're super excited, and it's really easy to get nervous, right? But guys, nervous and excitement carry the same energy. Did you guys know that? So when you're nervous, tell yourself, instead of having that negative talk of, I'm really nervous, I don't know what to do, instead start changing that self-talk. I'm really excited. I'm really excited I got a business inquiry. I'm really excited that my marketing efforts paid off. And you're going to watch your energy and your mindset shift just by those little mindset self-talk tidbits, okay? So remember, it's cool to be excited. It's cool to be a little bit nervous, guys. That means you care, right? You care about your business. You're putting effort, and it's totally nervous, right? I don't know a kid who got on the bike the first time and just was like totally ready to go, wasn't really nervous, right? I get on stage, I'm still nervous, right? Being nervous is normal. It's learning how to curb that by your self-talk. That's really going to help you walk you through that process, and having business processes set up, right? So let's say you're marketing online. I know many of you get taught how to do mock bookings, travel ads, right? Maybe you dispersed a neighborhood flyer to introduce yourself as a neighborhood travel agent. Maybe you went to your church and you put up some advertising, right? Whatever the case may be, you have the inquiry come in, okay? Now, that's the first step. Number one, if this is happening through social media on any platform, okay? I want you guys to do me a favor, right? It may not, okay? When you're getting a client inquiry through social media, please understand this. You're not going to sell travel through private messages on social media. What does that mean? You need to have a business process on how you get them off social media and on the telephone, right? Understand that if somebody's looking to do a family vacation for Disney with you, and they have 5 people in their family and they want to go for a week, that's going to be like a $5,000 trip. How many of you would want to purchase a package worth $5,000 through somebody who only talked to you through Messenger? How many of you would want or feel comfortable purchasing a vacation package of at least $5,000 of somebody who only talked to you through Messenger? Never. No, right? Even how many of you would even feel comfortable spending $500 with somebody who only talked to you through Messenger? When you're ready to spend, whether it's $500 or $5,000, don't you want to feel comfortable about who you're giving away that money to, in a sense, right? Who you're doing business with, right? Don't you want to get on the phone and say, number one, is this even a real person? Is this even a legitimate business, right? So number one, your credibility and you're building a relationship and your ability to come off as trustworthy is getting them off Messenger and getting them on a phone call, okay? Getting them off Messenger and getting them on a phone call. Now understand, the point of a travel ad, the point of any advertisement any company puts out there is to get inquiries. That doesn't mean you do your business in the place that you do inquiries, right? That is just part of the sales process, what I'll call a sales funnel even, right? You get them here, now we need to move them here. Does this make sense to everybody, right? You get them in your inbox, but now you need to move them to your phone. Does this make sense to everybody? People want to know that they're doing business with a reputable person. Number one, how about this? How many of you want that inquiry, number one, to turn into an income producing transaction? How many of you guys want that inquiry to be turned into an income producing transaction? And number two, how many of you guys want that to be not a one-time client? How many of you guys would want this to be a lifetime client? Right? So we're thinking about the big picture, right? But that starts with how you treat that relationship from that first interaction, right? And think of yourself as a consumer. When you're a consumer and you go to inquire with the business, you're already judging that business, right? How fast they get back to you, their willingness to get on the phone with you. How many of you guys have decided not to go through with a business transaction because that business wasn't willing to get on the phone with you, right? always want to put yourself in the consumer standpoint. What is the consumer experience when they're working with Kelly? What is the consumer experience when they're working with Dory? What is a consumer experience when they're working with Jerry? Are you building those trust, those relationship building blocks from the first time you interact with them, right? So how do you get them on the phone? You want to have posture, right? Because remember, this is your business. This is your business. So that means you have full control on how you manage your business and the business processes that you set up, right? So here's another thing. How many of you guys want your time respected? How many of you guys want your time respected when dealing with a client, right? Understand that every inquiry may not turn into a business transaction, right? I'm here to set realistic expectations for you guys. I want you to know your business process, as much as it is set up to produce income producing activities, right? It's also to help weed you out people that aren't serious. How many of you guys would like to build a process that can help you weed out tire kickers, help you weed out window shoppers, right? I always say, and I learned this from my girl, Nikki, if she's on here too, Nikki Lowe, I'm not a quote machine, right? I'm not just a quote service, right? I want to build relationships with people who are serious about doing business with me. And so that means I purposely built out a business process to weed out people who are never going to be serious about booking travel with me to begin with, who are just going to use me as a quote service, who are just going to use me to window shop. I don't want to invest my time in those people. I'm okay with those people never setting up a phone call with me because I know that means that's going to free up my time for somebody that wants to spend $10,000 with me. Because I promise you, the person that wants to spend $10,000 and wants to use a travel agent is going to get on the phone. Can we agree with that? Can we agree with that? The person that wants to spend $10,000 with you and wants to have a reputable travel agent is not going to be scared to get on the phone, right? Absolutely, right? So understanding part of building this process is helping to build your mental fortitude to weed out those people that are going to waste your time, okay? So offer 2 times that work best for you. As soon as I get inquiry, I will say, thank you, Bob, for inquiring. Thank you, Susie, for inquiring. The next step is to set up a consult and offer them 2 times because you do want to keep the ball in your court when you're talking to your clients, right? I don't want to ask so many open-ended questions. Well, when do you have time to talk, right? No, this is your business. For all they know, you have 20 other appointments, right? And so this is going to help you come off as more of a professional from day one. So whether this is your first client and you're like, Sarah, but I really don't have 10 more appointments, I don't care, right? Your client doesn't need to know that. Your client should never know they're your first client. Does that make sense? And so this is going to help you come off as a seasoned professional, right? So you're going to offer them 2 times that work for them, that work for you. Okay. Number 1, right? This is about getting your business to work around your life. Maybe you have a 3 to 5 p.m. window where you're picking up kids, you're taking them to extracurricular activities. So the last thing you do is want to offer a full 24-hour availability to your client and they give you 3 times in a row that are instantly not going to work with you. Instead, stop that from being negative experiences by giving them 2 times that you have availability for, right? Maybe you work a part-time job, maybe you work a full-time job. So from 9 to 2, you're not going to be available. Don't offer them those times, right? Offer them 2 times that you will have set aside to have a 30-minute window conversation. Does this make sense? This is how you're going to really pick through your availability to set down an appointment with them, okay? So this is right here, this second bullet point. I have a 4 p.m. Monday or an 8 a.m. Tuesday, which works best for you, okay? And guess what? If it doesn't work best for them because I'm being specific, they are more likely to come at me with a more specific time that does work for them. But if I lead with generalities, they're most likely going to come back with me with generalities too. Does this make sense as well, guys? Okay, remember, this is your chance to build a relationship from the moment they hit your inbox. Okay, another thing that I don't want you guys getting into is don't get into going back and forth, right? If they start saying, oh, I just want this, I just want that. Number one, that's a red flag that they're probably window shopping you, right? We just had this whole talk, right? About if they're serious about booking travel with you. Number one, anybody that I do business with or I go into service with, guess what? I saw an esthetician lady earlier this week. She told me before I work on your face, I want to have a 30-minute consult with you. I respected that. In fact, I appreciated that she wanted to take that much time and go through the skin products that I'm using, my daily routine, right? And kind of go through those before she even got me on her bed, under the mics, under the scope, so to speak, right? I respected the fact that she had a business process because I was serious about working with somebody, right? And I'm serious about investing into my face, into my skincare routine. And so I appreciate that I'm working with a professional who's going to treat me as serious as I'm willing to be. Does this make sense to you guys? You can apply that mindset to any business platform, right? When I'm going to buy a car, I don't want to work with somebody who's just going to give me quotes over the phone, or they're not going to be serious. I want somebody that's actually going to take the time to make sure, does this make and model? Number one, let's go for a test drive. I want to make sure, right? They're going to take me through all of these qualifying processes because they want to make sure that I'm serious. And in turn, they want to make sure that I'm really getting something that I'm going to feel happy investing my money into, okay? This is the same thing, quality service. Don't get into the back and forths about the trip. Set up the consult. Bob, I'm so excited that you have all of these amazing things that you already know about your trip. I really want to be able to get on the phone with you so that I can write this all down, give you a time and space that I can give my full attention to you so I don't miss any of the details for you. I have a 4 p.m. Monday or an 8 a.m. Tuesday, which works best for you. Do you guys see how I turned that around and I'm just recirculating them back to that appointment? If they're not willing to get on the phone with you guys, they're not that serious. If they're not willing to get on the phone with you guys, whatever would make you think that they would be willing to give you a credit card, right? If they're not willing to give you a phone number to set up a call, what makes you think they are going to be willing to give you the credit card after you do all the legwork of pulling a quote for them, right? Does that make sense? Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Okay, perfect. All right. So that's a little bit of setting up the consult, right? Now let's talk about it, right? The do's and don'ts of a consult, okay? Number one, I advise you guys, especially if you're just getting new, you should block out for yourself a 30-minute window for each consult. Some consults will take less, some calls may run a little bit over, but I think if you're one of those that like, I'm setting up time, right? You do want to set up about a 30-minute window space, okay? You want to give yourself enough time to build a relationship, to understand what your client wants, to understand the experience, and to talk them through the process, okay? So again, when you're going through the inquiry, guys, you want to have this up. You want to have this up, right? You don't want to give this to the client to necessarily go through, right? You want to make sure, well, guess what? If you found them off Facebook, if you found them on LinkedIn, if they emailed you, chances are you know your client's name. So you can start kind of filling this out. I suggest, guys, some people print this out. Some people print this out and laminate it so they can just dry erase it and then wipe it clean every time. Some people like to have the printout version. Every client they have, they write down, maybe they create a folder, right? Everyone's going to have a little bit of a different process there. You have to find out what works best for you, okay? So these are questions that you want to ask them, okay? And guys, when you're talking to somebody about their experience that they're wanting, ask them, what kind of experience are you looking to have? Get them to talk about, get them emotionally invested into this vacation. Why? Because people buy with their emotions. And when you start asking them about what experience they're going to have, I promise you what's going to happen is they're going to tell you a whole lot, right? oh, this is my honeymoon. I'm really excited. We've never really been on a vacation before. This is going to be my husband's first chance for us to kind of get away together. We've never been to Hawaii before. Maybe we've been to Hawaii before. We're thinking at least 4 nights, right? So what's going to happen? They're going to start telling you all these things that they want, right? And then what are you going to start doing? I'm going to start writing this down. What information, when they're telling me about the experience, are they already telling me? So I don't have to necessarily ask every single question. Does this make sense? Does this make sense to you guys? Okay. You can use this as a way to have a conversation with them, right? So you definitely want to have some sort of inquiry form. Now, why is it important? Because there are questions here that you need that if you don't get answered, guys, when you go to pull up the search queue for any vendor, you're not even going to be able to plug in a search because you didn't get all the necessary information, right? So it's very important that we're getting all of this information down, okay? So make sure that you're really going through all of this and allow your client the time to speak, right? Again, you don't want to necessarily say, how much do you want to spend? What's your budget, right? Because that's going to get them to think about this from a very logical perspective. And when you're thinking logically, you tend to only think numbers. You tend to get answers like, I want the best, cheapest experience, cheapest thing for what I'm looking for, right? No. I want my client to fully open up with me. I want them to tell me the experience they're looking for. And don't be afraid to, have moments of relating to your client, right? I'm so happy this is going to be my first time to get away for my kids for a little bit, right? How many of you guys are moms and have kids, dads and have kids, nieces and nephews, right? Maybe you just have a lot of kids in your life. And you would be super excited if you were able to take a 5-day vacation away from the kids. And so if your client's expressing that, use that as a moment to say, oh, I know I have 2 crazy toddlers, it's wonderful to be able to get away from them. You're bridging that gap with them, right? You're building that relationship. You're building common ground, okay? In sales, the more common ground you can build with the client, the more likely they are to go through with it, right? Because they're building that personal connection with you guys. In other words, you don't want to be super robotic, right? Exactly, Christina, building rapport, right? The more I'm able to build that rapport, number 1, that client's going to remember me. Number 2, how much of more quality of a conversation am I having with them, right? And they're more likely to recommend it, right? Because I'm actually giving them personalized services. And I'm spending that one-on-one. Remember, part of the benefit of having a travel agent is because we get to be one-on-one. We're not just a 1-800 number, one and done. Go through my inquiry because you're one of 20. No, I'm going to spend the time to build a relationship with my client. Who knows? Maybe they tell you, hey, I'm planning this vacation trip for my wife, but really my wife wants a whole bunch of friends to go. So I'm hoping once I secure this with you, I could just give you my friends and family's phone numbers, or I can give them your phone number and they can just book with you, right? But having that conversation and allowing them to open up is what's going to lead you to conversations like that down the road. Does that make sense to you guys? So let's go over some of the do's and don'ts when facilitating a conversation with your client, okay? So some of the do's. You want to make your client aware that travel pricing does change by day by day. And I always have this conversation with them in the beginning of my consult. Why? It's part of my qualifying, but number 1, I want to try to educate my client as much as possible, because the more I educate them, the more trust I'm building with them, right? In other words, if I tell them, hey, Susie, just so you know, travel pricing, it does change day by day, inventory changes, service, the demand may change, right? And so I just want to make you aware of that prior to us getting into this process, because, I want to make sure that you're aware that pricing will not be secured until we either secure that deposit or pay in full, one of the two, right? Because either they want to do a deposit or they want to pay in full. So them securing it by lieu of essentially putting down money on the vacation, that's what's going to secure their pricing. I do that because when I'm quoting, and this is This is queuing them up for the urgency that you're going to provide when your follow-up, okay? So this is kind of queuing them up for that. Does this make sense? Okay. Also, guys, understand you are not a discount service. A lot of new agents will start marketing themselves as a discount service, and I get it. That is something that I mistakenly did to try to provide value to get inquiries. But what that ended up doing was getting me really trash inquiries, right? That ended up getting me like the Motel 6 inquiries. I just want a cheap 2-star hotel inquiries. I don't want those kind of clients. If you guys had to pick between bougie, luxury wanting clients to Motel 6 wanting clients, what kind of client would you have in mind? What kind of person would you want to have as a client? Somebody who's ready to spend $5,000 or somebody who wants to have this vacation and only want to spend $200-$300? What kind of client do you want walking through your door? Right? Those high-end clients, right? The people that are ready, the spenders, right? So understand, think of, okay, we all know our most fabulous founder, David McCovey, okay? And if you know him, you know that that man does not do cheap, right? He ain't looking for cheap stuff. That man wants high quality services. So do you think you're going to attract a man like David McCovey to do services with you if all you're doing is promoting yourself as a discount service? Or do you think you're going to attract a high-end quality client like David McCovey if you are showcasing and putting value in your ability to pay attention to him, to produce what he wants, and give him the experience that he's wanting to go on, right? So think about that when you're marketing yourself. I want the David McCoveys. I want the multimillionaires as clients because those are people, number one, that have the income, that are going to produce the high-end commission trips, and they probably have friends that are just as wealthy as them and want a professional service. You think David McCovey has time to spend 7 hours researching what's the best Dominican Republic hotel to go to? Or do you think he wants to hire somebody for that service? Right? So think of yourself as a quality-based travel agent, okay? You are not a discount service. Now, you can promise your client you will get them the best pricing, but do you see how that verbiage is different? If I get a client like David, I hear what you're saying. I'm so glad that, thank you for taking the time. I'm going to make sure that now that I have all your informations and I'm fully aware of the experience that you're wanting to have, I'm going to take everything that you're wanting and combine it with the experience that you're going to want. And I'm going to ensure that I can get you the best pricing for everything that you're looking for. Do you see how that's different than promising a discount service? Do you understand how that posture comes out different? Okay. Now, please, please, please also make sure that you are on time with your appointments. Okay. If you set up a time for 10 a.m., don't call them at 10:10. Don't call them at 10:05. Call them at 10 o'clock. Be on time. That shows professionalism. Don't call them 15 minutes beforehand because they didn't set up a time with you at 9:45. They set up the time with you at 10 o'clock, right? Not 10:05, not, oh my goodness, I'm running late 10:30, right? No. Respect your client's time. If you want them to respect your time, respect the time that they put in to set aside to talk to you. Be on time with that appointment. Okay. And of course, all of the 2 tip points that I went to prior, right? Informing them of the travel pricing, informing them of the quality service that you provide, informing them of what happens next. Now that we had a consult, what happens next? I'm going to work on this quote. Let's set up a follow-up call. What are you doing? You are helping educating them on the process. So they're not second guessing, like, what's happening next? What am I doing, right? When you have an informed and educated client, you have a client that's going to learn to rely on you, a client that's going to learn that they can trust you. And setting up, exactly, Christina, setting up education expectations. Okay. Now, some things that you don't want to do, and I see that I put main idea here. I should have put don'ts. Okay. These are don'ts over here on the right-hand side. Do not be rude and pushy. Okay, guys, this is their trip. while you can educate them, if they have a unrealistic expectation, you are certainly in the right to educate them as a travel advisor, but you do not have the right to be rude or push an experience that you want on them. This is their investment. This is their time. This is their money. They have every right to have the experience. Now, sometimes their experience doesn't necessarily mesh up with their budget. So that's when we as a travel advisor can very kindly kind of help them understand and educate them. And either they're going to come up with the budget, or they're going to say, hey, you know what? I understand this may be out of what the realms of my possibility. So why don't we scale it back? And instead of a 10-day, would this be possible under a 6-day, right? When you are respectfully educating them, you can come off not pushy and not rude, but still cater, okay? Now, don't feel like you have to take on every client. Understand that this qualifying process, guys, is meant so that you can weed out some of the people, right? That's kind of what we talked about, okay? And don't waste time. If they're talking to you and they're like, hey, Sarah, I'm not going to be ready to book this for 6 months, that quote that you want to produce for them tomorrow isn't going to be valid 6 months from now. Number one, inventory could be gone. Number two, flights could be sold out. Flight probably definitely is going to go up, right? So understand, inform them. Hey, are you wanting to book 6 months from now because you're thinking that you're going to have to pay this in full? Did you know actually securing the pricing early can help you mitigate costs, and you can actually put down a deposit so that you actually now have time to pay it off within 6 months rather than having to pay it all up front at that one time. Do you see how I also turn that around? Right? They may not be, they just, no, I'm not ready to book for another 6 months. Okay. Well, then it's not really, right now wouldn't be the best time for me to give you a full-on quote because this quote's going to be obsolete in 6 months. So why don't we go ahead and plan to revisit this in 6 months from now? Do you guys understand that? I'm not going to sit down and waste my time and take on every client that may not be ready for me right now. This is part of the process, right? Some things that you don't want to forget. This is the time to be personable. Don't be scared to connect. Find common ground with your client and build trust. Always be educating about this process. What can they expect? Explain the timeline, right? In other words, don't tell your client, I'm going to follow up and get this to you right away. How many of you guys have made that mistake? I know I made that mistake, and that's just me being honest and vulnerable with you guys. When I first started this and I was giving out quotes, my go-to line is, you know what, Susie, I'm going to go ahead and start working on this. I'm going to get back to you right away. Well, what does right away mean? Is Susie even ready right away? No. Instead, I have now learned I'm going to walk my client through the expectation of when they can know when to receive a quote. Number one, I want them to know that I'm not just quickly putting something together. I want them to know that I am actually going to take in what they told me, the experience that they're wanting, and I'm going to put together a thoughtful quote for them that's going to really hit everything that they're wanting, right? Again, why are they using a travel agent? They want a personalized service catered to the experience that they're wanting. So make sure that you're providing that. All my quotes, I have a turnaround time of no less than 24 hours. Sometimes 48 hours, depending on depending on my life, right? If I have a lot going on in the next 24 hours, I know realistically, I'm not going to have the time maybe to push out a quote, right? Maybe I have 3 other appointments set for the next day that are producing quotes already. So it wouldn't be fair to give me that extra workload of having to turn around that quickly for the 4th client. Does that make sense? Understand that you are in control of your time and you do get to set when you have that time to talk to your clients, right? So with that being said, get out of the habit of wanting to say, I'm going to get back to you as soon as possible. Walk them through, hey, this is going to take me about 24, 48 hours. Looking at the calendar, again, you're going to want to give them those 2-pronged times. I have a Thursday at 5 p.m. or if a Friday morning works better for you, Friday at 9 a.m., what time works better for you? Now, do you see what I'm also doing? I'm also not leaving that call without that follow-up time. Does that make sense? You never want to leave your consult. You never want to hang up with them without getting that follow-up appointment in the books, right? It's all about that pipeline, right? That sales pipeline. The inquiry, we pipelined it into a phone call. That phone call, we're pipelining it to a follow-up. And we're going to pipeline that follow-up into a booking. Do you understand? Inquiry, phone call, follow-up, booking. That is your pipeline. Does that make sense to you guys? That is a pipeline process. And these are the steps that we're taking to ensure we get to that end result, which is booking, right? Repeat what they say. This is effective communication 101. Summarize your call at the end. All right, Susie, I want to make sure that I really didn't miss any details. Let me go ahead and make sure I got all of this. Doesn't mean you have to spend another 15 minutes going through everything, right? You're looking for a 5-day Hawaiian vacation. You have your husband and your 2 kids, ages 10 and 11. You guys, you want to fly out of Washington, Seattle, Washington, right? You want to go to Maui. You're looking for a 4 to 5 star resort, and you're wanting to do some excursions, maybe horseback riding, a luau, I want to make sure, does that sound right? Did I forget anything in there? I want to make sure that I got everything. What's going to happen when you do that with your client? They're going to feel heard, right? They're going to feel assured that you got everything that they're looking for. And they're going to feel like they were listened to, like their wants got listened to. How satisfying is it when you talk to a professional service and you know they understand what it is you're wanting from them? How much more assured are you going to feel in that process? How much more trust are you going to have knowing they heard and they know what you're looking for, right? Makes a huge difference in that building a relationship process, right? That rapport, right? Do not leave the call without setting up a follow-up appointment, but set up that realistic expectation, right? We already talked about that, right? Now, you got off the call, you have the inquiry. Sarah, the next thing you're going to say is, what vendor do I pick? How many of you guys feel like that? I never know what vendor to pick. Right? Okay, understand that part of the process is understanding that you are always going to have to research. This is the part where if you have all of these other processes laid out, this is the variable in the equation that you can expect to always change, right? I always say start off with go into your travel cafe and look at the preferred suppliers. Because when you go into your preferred suppliers in the travel cafe, just so you know, in case you haven't, right? Maybe you have, that they give you a little bit of blurb about what that vendor specializes in. In other words, I'm not going to be concerned about shopping a cruise vendor if I'm looking for an all-inclusive vacation, right? That's land, right? Understand that you're going to want to find probably 3 vendors. You're going to want to find 3 vendors, okay? Vax is always a really good one for any land inquiry forms, okay? RoomRes, always a really good one. RoomRes is only hotel. You can't do airfare with it yet. You can do hotel and activities, right? But these are some staple suppliers that you can maybe always have those 2 in your back pocket, right? And then maybe they're wanting to do Europe, so maybe you throw in Exotica or Travagafler, right? But understand that part of this is research. You don't know until you go through the motions. Does this make sense? Now, what I do recommend, guys, is start with 1 vendor and narrow down. Can you find, based off the qualification that your client gave you, right? And the reason why I like VAC so much to start with is because it has so many filters in it. And I'll have another class here next month about the actual booking portion of that. But when you go through VAX, and I do have a quick tutorial on VAX to kind of showcase what it is I'm talking about. If you guys follow my YouTube, we'll talk about that later. But now you'll never know what the best vendor is until you actually do the research, right? So you need to get out of the habit of what's the best vendor, because you won't know until you shop the quote. And the reason for that is vendors are constantly throwing on different promotions. Some vendors will have the inventory, some won't. There's been times where VAX has been phenomenal, right? For my all-inclusives, guess what? I just booked somebody's all-inclusive stay in Pleasant Holidays. not my normal go-to, but because I did the work to research my client, I actually found in Pleasant Holidays, it was about $400 or $500 cheaper than everywhere else. But I'm not going to know that until I actually put in the research time. Remember, we are a service. What service are we doing? We're doing the heavy lifting for our client. The inevitable about being a travel agent is that you have to research, you have to shop. So there is no best vendor for this thing. The best vendor you'll only find after you research. Does that make sense? Now, once you have the components, let's say you look in Vax and you found the perfect resort. It's a 5-star, it's within their budget, it has a spa that they're wanting, it's beachfront, right? Now what you do is you take that one quote that you produce in Vax and you shop that apples to apples in the next 2 vendors that you have. Why? Because that's how you know who's going to give you the best pricing, right? So I always use the first vendor, number 1, to kind of determine the inventory. Okay. And I use that vendor to narrow down what it is that I want to produce for my client. Then I use the next 2 vendors to shop that exact quote, apples for apples. A lot of people go into vendors and they start looking in Pleasant Holidays for a 4-star resort, and then they look in Vax for a 5-star resort, and then they feel really exhausted and overwhelmed because you're not looking for the same thing in the vendors. There's no way for you to know or produce a quality quote if you're not actually producing one quote first and then using that to shop against the vendors. That's how you're going to come up with the best pricing. Does that make sense for everybody? That is how you utilize our vendors. Not to go in there willy-nilly, like pin the tail on the donkey for every vendor. Use one vendor first to narrow down what it is you want to produce for your client. Then once you have the components, you have the flight schedule, the airline, the time, you have the hotel, the room type, you have travel insurance picked out, then you use that exact itinerary and hop over to Exotica, or hop over to RoomRes, or hop over to Beds Online, or whatever 2 other vendors, or maybe shop it inside vendors inside of Vax. That is how you use our vendors to help you thoroughly research. Use one vendor and then shop it against the other vendors, okay? Again, there is no best vendor for any one specific itinerary. You can, however, find the best vendor to service your particular client's need based off the information they have given you, right? You do not do your clients a disservice by only looking into one vendor. Like I said, Pleasant Holidays wasn't my typical go-to. I'm going to be really honest, but I did my due diligence as a travel advisor. And because I did, I got them off of, I literally think I saved him about $400 off of any other rate because I researched it. And he was so happy. And guess what? Because I did my due diligence and because I was able to find him the best rate, like I told him I was going to, he booked it like that. How do I give you my credit card, Sarah? How do I give you I want to secure this right now. There was no sense of me pushing that urgency on him because he understood the urgency. When I gave him a quote that was everything that he wanted, $400 or $500 cheaper than what he could find on his own. Does that make sense? This is how you utilize our vendors smart, right? I'm all about working smart, not harder. That is a pro tip on how you can utilize our vendors and work smarter, not harder. Absolutely. Okay. Important points for the follow-up, right? I've kind of walked you through, the pipeline a little bit, right? We talked about that inquiry. We talked about the consultation. We kind of talked a little bit about the research. Now let's talk about that follow-up really quick. We're going to wrap this up and then we're going to head into Q&A, okay? So important points for the follow-up call. Have the booking portal ready. Have your itinerary that you created ready and refreshed so that when, let's say your client loves it and they're like, Sarah, I want to go, like my client, right? He couldn't wait to book. He's like, oh, no, okay. I've heard enough. I want to book it. I want to secure this pricing right now. Guess what? I had my stuff ready to go for him to book. I made it a seamless transaction for him, right? So when you're prepping for that follow-up call, prep by having that itinerary live ready to go. Okay. Have pictures of the resort on your phone. How many of you guys are visual people? How many of you guys are visual people? Right? You can tell me about a 5-star resort, but I want to see this 5-star resort. Like, show me the beach that you're about to put me on, right? I always have pictures of resort and room ready for my client to have. So as I'm walking them through this beautiful itinerary I created, they have the information so they can see it. Okay. This is going to help me sell this trip to them because I'm invoking an emotional response, right? How many of you, like, when you see a beautiful beach, you're like, oh my God, I want to go there now. That's invoking emotions, right? Like, make no mistake, this is all part of the psychological game for my client. I'm evoking the emotions, right? I'm painting the picture to them as I talk to them. I'm getting them excited. I'm getting them emotionally invested so that they will invest their credit card with me, right? So they book the trip. All right. Also, guys, make sure that you are aware of the details. Figure out the deposit, figure out the due dates of final payments, figure all of that out prior to getting on the phone call. That's part of your researching. Have those written down in bullet point form for you, if that helps. Okay. But have those details ready to go because you're going to come off as an informed professional. Okay. Have that credit card authorization form semi-filled out, right? So when you're looking at this credit card authorization form, oops, there we go. There we go. So when you're looking at that credit card authorization form, what can you have filled out? First of all, you can have this top portion already filled out, right? Oopsies. Oh, here we go. It's going to take me out of there. No, Adobe. Okay. So it's going to go back. Okay, maybe it won't do it. Hopefully it does do it. If not, we can go in the travel cafe really quick. All right. So it'll put you into, if you already have that filled out, guess what? It's going to be easier for you to give and produce to your client. That's going to produce a quicker turnaround, right? And you're going to come off prepared. Does that make sense? So have that client inquire or that credit card form filled out. We're going to go here really quick. So that way you guys have it again. Okay. So this business information, guys, I want to go over with you really quick. This is all your stuff. Number one, don't brand yourself as an Archer travel agent, an Archer travel employee, an Evolution travel employee. You are your own entity. We are all 1099s, okay? We are not W-2 employees. We don't work for Archer. We work as an affiliate of Archer, okay? That's why this little thing is here for you, okay? Have your own travel business name. You don't have to put your full address, honestly, just city and state or state, right? Your phone number, your business email. This is the client's name and this is your business name, okay? Guess what? You can type all of this in for them. You can type in when they're going to leave, their return date, right? The lead inquiry, right? And this is where they would fill it out right here. This is their part, right? Those travel, like, let them fill this out, okay? But do you see how you can have about half of it filled out ready to go? So that way it's easier to send to your client, okay? Now, I will say, guys, there are forms that you can have if you guys are actively booking travel, if you have a book of business already. I do, at some point in my travel business journey, I did decide it was worth it for me to invest into a CRM, okay? The reason why I don't always advocate for this up front is because I want you guys earning money before we're spending more money, right? So once you get to a point where you're earning money, or if you have money to spend already into a business, right? There are CRMs that you can have a monthly subscription to, okay, that have built-in credit card authorization forms that clients can electronically fill out and Archer will formally accept as credit card authorization forms, okay? There's TravelJoy and there's Travefy, okay? These are two separate CRMs. TravelJoy is the least expensive of the two. You can input clients in here. You can do all of that. You can also send them a credit card authorization form through here that they can electronically fill out and have for you, okay? So just so you know, there's also this in Travefy, okay? You can send them a client credit card authorization form, and they can go ahead and fill it out electronically so they don't have to print stuff out, screenshot, okay? That's one of the major benefits I had. It's easier for me to do business there. Travel Joy is about $30 a month, and I think Travefy is about $39 a month. Now, they each come with a 7-day trial. I can give you those links if you want them, if you want to try a 7-day trial towards the end, okay? But I'm going to continue on with the information, okay? All right. Again, be prepared to take the credit card over the phone. The credit card authorization, if you're doing it Archer travel style here with this thing, with this form, you will need to take their credit card information over the phone live, okay? Because this does not have all the requirements for you to take a full credit card number, okay? So this is just for them to authorize the purchase and for you to have as protection that the client authorized me to make this charge on their card. It protects both parties. It protects you and it protects the clients. It's protecting you by saying that you are authorized to use this card, and it's protecting the client by limiting the authorization that you have, right? They're telling you how much you have that you can charge on the card, right? So it's a two-way protection, and it's also protecting you in that this is the person that's actually authorized to use this card to protect from fraud, okay? So if you're using this, you will need to have the credit card information taken live over the phone. If you're using one of these CRM driven client credit card authorization forms, you do not need to have this. This actually provides the full credit card number for me. It's because it's embedded and there's extra security steps that I take to get that inside of my CRM. So they can actually do the full thing here without me needing to take their credit card information over the phone. Okay, so just two options. You decide what's best for you. Okay, one is free and one is not. I always advocate and like to give you guys choices, but at the end of the day, you have to make the right decision for you. Okay, so with that being said, here we go. And then remember that this is a relationship business. Like, show some personality, right? It's okay to laugh. It's okay to build personal connections with your client, okay? And last but not least, vacations are fun, right? Who here likes to have fun on their vacation? Who here likes to have fun on their vacation? Guess what? I bet your client wants to have fun on their vacation. I bet your client is going to vacation to get rid of some stress. Make this fun and stress-free for your clients. Don't stress your client with the back-end facilitation of your booking, okay? That is why they're using you, so that you can take on that portion of their booking process, right? If it's hard for you to book, or if you're running into problems, call your mentor. That's who you tell that you're griping to. Call Archer. That's who you worry about the stress with. Don't worry your client about the stress of the back-end facilitation of your booking. Does that make sense? This is supposed to be a stress-free thing for them. My clients will never know, if I had a hard time booking this, how stressful it was for me. I'm there to absorb their stress. I'm not there to give them stress back. That's part of that client experience, right? Don't be scared also to ask for a review. If you book them and they're like, Sarah, you're so wonderful, I can't wait to tell my friends and family. You know what, Susie, the biggest compliment that you can give my business, I'm going to send you the link. If you could just shoot me a quick review, 5-star review, just kind of telling your experience of how I helped your family vacation, right? Guess what? Also, guys, once your client's in travel, you can do something really nice for a client and it's going to stand out. Investing $10 into buying them a bottle of wine or champagne, or having some chocolate covered strawberries there when they arrive into the hotel room with a nice little note from you, that is going to make you stand out from the crowd. That is something they can't get from an Expedia. That is something they can't get from a Trivago.com. That is something they get through you. You know how many my clients love that I always do? I have a client that's leaving this weekend for a birthday cruise. Guess what? Their room's being decorated and I bought them a red velvet cake because he doesn't like alcohol. That's something that Expedia can't do for him. Expedia can't make a chocolate cake. Do you think Expedia cares about having a client's room decorated? Do you think Expedia is going to give that personal touch? Right? Think about those little things that you can do. I always call the hotel and have a little note written too. This is what I want you to say. Thank you so much for choosing me as your travel advisor. I've helped make this a memorable trip. Those are things that help you stand out, and that personalized service that they're going to love and make them feel so, so special. Like they're your special client. How many of you loved feeling special by service providers, right? You want this to be a lifetime client with unlimited referrals. That is why we've done all of the things, right? How many of you guys feel a little bit better now? How many of you guys feel like, okay, I feel like I can start tackling this now. I got some good tidbits. Does this help you guys today? Awesome. I'm so happy that I've been able to help you guys. I'm so thankful that you guys chose to plug into your business today and, get all of this wonderful knowledge. I really, really hope that this helps you. Again, if you don't know, that is okay. We always have the capability to learn and get educated on processes, right? So I appreciate you guys. For those of you that have some questions, please stick around. I am going to do a Q&A section. Okay, guys. So I appreciate you guys. I hope that you guys got all the tidbits. Last but not least, if there's any other things that you need to connect, don't be shy to get to your mentor, right? And help them have you connect some of the dots and some of this, okay? So I love you guys, and we'll catch you on the next